First, the average cleavage speed came out as 112, which is slightly over elite man's average. But for your height, you are a bit short. This is normalized to body height.
Okay.
And then the overall swing time is slightly over 1,000 milliseconds. It's close to elite man's average. And I want you to speed up this a little bit.
Yeah.
Now, forget about these here. So this is when cleavage is moving slowly, and then today the calibration was not that good. So, but if you look at the shape here, this is almost symmetric. So in other words, you are increasing the speed and then decreasing the speed.
Pretty similar.
Yeah. But I want to see the peak occurs a bit later here. So initially you can start slowly here, but then increase speed. And then once you reach the peak velocity during the backswing, then you have quickly decrease and increase. So you need to have active deceleration. But your peak is happening almost in the middle of the backswing here. Okay? And then 3 and 4 order here, that means you have wrist motion. You do not introduce early wrist motion. That's good. And then this is the top view. So the large rectangle is the swing plane, and your swing plane is outward. On the average, it's 2.3 degrees. The most is a 3.
Is this with driver?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's going outward, but your hand motion plane is more toward target here. The angle difference is not that large. It's about 2 degrees on the average, so which is not a problem at all. Now, this is when we align your body along the swing plane here. So this straight line is the swing plane. You tend to start a bit flat in the backswing initially. Then eventually lifting this up and then have this looping motion. But here, when the downswing starts, you're quickly moving this toward the swing plane. But here still, if you draw a line here, then this path and then this path are fairly symmetric. But you need to quickly move this down toward the swing plane here. Okay. So when it's close to a symmetric pattern, that means you're using your arms.
Too much?
In this case, it's not too much, but
Okay.
the real bad situation is instead of dropping here, it just goes this way here.
Yeah.
It goes high and then gradually coming down. Then you have to pull your hand inward quite a bit in the follow through.
Okay.
But this is not too bad, but the reason why you have this large loop here is because you're starting from flat path here.
Yeah, I've always done that.
So if you go this way, more along the swing plane, then this loop will be not this much here. Okay? What happens is when you go flat initially, then you have to lift this up.
Yeah.
That's why it has to go high up. So when the club is deviated from the swing plane, the most is about here. This is a fairly crossover alignment of the club here. But then now at top of backswing, still your club head is deviated more from the swing plane than the hands. So it basically shows a crossover alignment.
Okay.
So when you have a crossover alignment, then the hands tend to go more inward than the swing plane. Okay, and then the slope of your swing plane is about 48 degrees. This should be reasonable.
Okay.
So, and then center of mass motion. So initially, the whole body center of mass is here at 0, and then it moves away and then going up here. So you're reaching the high point near the end of pelvis rotation. and then you're dropping the center mass quite a bit here. So it goes about 4 centimeters below the initial position, which is good. From here, you're pushing up here. Judging from this vertical motion, your ground reaction force should be reasonably high. Okay, later we will see that. So you have good vertical motion here. This is the pelvis center of mass here. And then initially the pelvis goes slide up here and then coming down. So you do have, initially you do have upward motion of the pelvis here. That's why the center of mass also starts moving up early.
The shape of that's good, right?
I want to see more coming this way, but it goes sort of flat this way, and then later you are dropping here.
Okay.
This means you do have some disconnection between the backswing and the downswing, partially because, again, the backswing, and then the timing of the peak of the club velocity, that tells me that you probably have an early action of the body, but after that you have slow motion. Okay, so so you essentially have a change in motion around here. Okay, so we'll see that, and then pelvis motion. In terms of rotation, you're rotating this much in the backswing, and then the rotation at impact is about this much here. So, you know, you're rotating a bit more than man's average, but this is not too bad. You can go a bit more, and then this is also these are reasonably balanced, so I wouldn't worry about this. And this blue line is the up and down motion of this is the lateral tilt. And then, so what happens is you develop this lateral tilt early, up to this point. And then from there, it slows down a little bit, so it gets flatter. So that means you have a quick motion up to this point here. So initially, you have a quick motion of the body up to this point, and then you have almost a two-stage motion in the backswing. So this is where you have change in the motion here. So instead of quick initial push and then going slow here, you need to have a continuous motion all the way. And then build the climax more toward the end of the backswing.
Okay.
Instead of having early action.
Okay.
And then also here, this is up and down motion here.
Where do you want the peak speed to be at?
In the clever speed here, probably about here. So when
Left arm parallel. Yeah.
or when the club becomes vertical around here. But this is a bit early. That means you have early quick motion, and then going slow. Then that means there will be disconnect between the backswing and the downswing to a certain extent. So again, going to the pelvis here. And then this blue line is up and down motion. But as you see, you are moving the pelvis up to this point, and then going slowly down here, and then you have this dip here. That means, again, you are introducing this, dip here. That means you have a disconnect between the backswing and the downswing. So it's partially because you have early action, and then from that point you have slow motion. Then you try to do something when the downswing starts. This is the top of backswing. This is the top of backswing that you want to do something here. So you're moving the pelvis down quite a bit and then try to kick here. So you need to have a more continuous motion in the backswing, and then also connected the transition from backswing to downswing. Later, when we look at the kinematic sequence, you will be able to see that you have early rotation at the beginning, and then you have a slow transition from there to the downswing. And then the blue line, the green line is away motion here. From here to here is away motion. And then from here to here is a recentering, and then continuous motion toward the target here. But this away motion is a bit large. What that means is,
I'm putting all my energy in early.
yeah, you see, it's this upward motion, and then this away motion. These are timed together here.
Yeah.
So that means that because you try to bring the pelvis high up, with you're moving also your pelvis in the away direction. So this is a bit more than typical, but
Is it okay though?
I generally promote more active lateral motion, so it's not a problem,
Okay.
I think. But now, when you speed up the backswing, then you will also be able to control this better, because when you have too much away motion, then you cannot quickly,
Yeah.
continue the backswing motion here. So as you speed up your backswing, then this away motion will become a bit shorter. So one thing you need to pay attention to is speeding up the backswing a bit more. Okay? And then this red line is forward to backward motion. And initially the pelvis is going backward slightly, and then going forward and backward, forward here. But I want to see just the continuous forward motion from here to end of pelvis rotation here. I want to see the pelvis just moving forward. So let's see what's happening here. Let's go to the swing plane view here. So if you look at the hip motion here, the right hip is going backward. So at the top of backswing here, so the distance between the hips and the distance between the knees, so in your case, they look fairly similar. But I want to see this distance a bit longer than this one here. Yeah, that means this hip has to go more upward instead of having too much backward motion. Then this knee will stick out here. So your right hip tends to go backward a bit more. So that's why we see this initial backward motion here. But when you support the body well, so you should have the feel of supporting the body well with the right leg.
Okay.
But when you move away and then push the ground, your hip is going backward. So when the hip goes backward quite a bit, then what happens is your instep leaves the ground. But I didn't really check that during your swing. But usually when the right hip goes backward a bit too much, then you will see that the instep leaves the ground, because you're not really interacting with the ground with the ball of foot here and more here.
Okay.
But when we look at the ground reaction force, yeah, here, initially the force acting on the trail foot is this one here. So this is moving backward. Then the force has to come from more the ball of foot here. But in your case, it's the middle of the foot here. So these two forces should show crossing like this.
Yeah.
So the backward force is more coming from the ball of foot, and then this forward force is more coming from the middle foot here. So then they will cross this way. But in your case, this backward force is also coming from the middle foot here. That means you have tendency of moving the foot. So the instep goes slightly away from the ground. Later, I'll have to check that. But so that means that your hip, right hip is moving backward. Yeah, from the beginning, at the setup position, your right hip is slightly behind here, and then it keeps moving backward. Okay, and then back to the pelvis here. So that's the main thing here. So I see the tendency of early pelvis motion here, and then change in the motion here. So let's go to the X factor. Ooh. So this is the separation between your hips and shoulders here. You have initially the shoulders open. Your pelvis tends to show us a bit closed position here at the beginning. But from here, now the two lines become parallel to each other about here. So the X factor is 0. And up to this point, you see, up to this point, the X factor increases rapidly here. But then it plateaus here. So from there, you have a slow motion of both the hip line and shoulder line here. So initially, you have early separation. So this is more upper body driven backswing here. And when you have active lower body, then the hip does not go backwards that much. Yeah. So here is a major change in the curve here, the slope of the curve. So from here to end of pelvis rotation, you don't have much change in the X factor here. And then it is increasing again. But this is when the pelvis already starts rotating in the downward direction. So with the pelvis rotating in the opposite direction, then you have a little more increase in the X factor. So you have early action of the pelvis here. And then the maximum occurs about here. So I want to connect all these values, so increase the X factor continuously, rather than early separation, and then the whole body is moving together. So when you have a really active backswing, using the momentum, you can separate this continuously, right? Yeah, this is a bit too much. This is completely flat here. So it's because you have early action. So as a matter of fact, let's go to the kinematic sequence here. So this is the backswing sequence here. Backswing sequence based on the timings of the peak angular velocity. The pelvis reaches peak angular velocity about here, the red line here. And the green, that's the thorax, and then the shoulders here. So pretty much the axial segments reach peak angular velocity about here. This is too early. So rather, I want to see these peaks happening in the middle of the backswing here. Yeah. So these should happen about here. Then the arms will be delayed, and then the club will be delayed here. But because in your case, you are reaching the peak angular velocity early, again, this is because of early quick action here. Then the arms reach peak angular velocity even before the midpoint here. The club angular velocity also reaches peak before the midpoint here. So you have really early action here. Okay. Then once you have early action, reach the peak angular velocity, then from here to here, you have too much time. Then you have, this hesitation here. Yeah, slow down. And this causes a disconnect between the backswing and downswing. And so the timing of the peaks here in the downswing should be okay. But this, and then let's go to the transition phase here. In the transition phase, so this is pelvis here, and then thorax and shoulders here, and then this is the arms, and this is the club. The club tends to transition a bit early. So you have early release here. This pink line here, this pink line is the club angular velocity, but the club angular velocity goes positive. This is wrist angular velocity. So when it goes positive, then it's uncocking. Uncocking starts early and then have hesitation here. So your uncocking starts a bit early. This is because, again, you have disconnected between backswing and the downswing. So you need to have a continuous motion that try to build the climax more toward the backswing, end of the backswing. So when you build the active motion toward the end of the backswing, then from there, you have to have active slowdown and then going to the downswing here. So then you can have a lot better transition here. But because you have an early action in the backswing, and from there you have sort of hesitation. And then, so the transition sequence is not that clear. Okay? In the downswing, these peaks are okay, but if you look at the wrist, this pink line, this is wrist angular velocity. It shows the early uncocking and then hesitation here, then start increasing. But this is the elite man's average wrist angular velocity. So you're way below this. And then this is the elite man's average angular velocity of the club, and then you are below that. Yeah. So what it means is that you are not using the wrist enough.
Okay.
So if you look at the stick figure here, so on the way down, coming down here, so this is when, let's go to the frontal view here. So let's use this one. So when the club is horizontal here, in the driver condition on the way down, then your hand should be in front of the right thigh here, but it's out here.
Yeah.
That means you are losing the club early.
Yeah. I hit
Yep.
low left.
If you bring this to this level here, and then let the wrist go.
Okay.
But this means the wrist, you're letting the club go a bit too early. And then even at this point, your elbow is still in too much here. It's in here. So instead, if the hands are, when the club is horizontal, when the hands are in front of the thigh here, then this right arm will be more extended this way here.
That in front of you? Okay.
In front of you.
Is that why, like, and this is on video, my right arm, it'll do that real quick?
Yeah, we have to go, when you go this way here, then later you have to flip this quickly.
Okay.
But instead, it's just have a gradual extension of the elbow here, and then automatically you go here and then continue this. But if your elbow comes in too much here, and then the actual club and hands are way behind here, coming this way, and then you try to flip this quite a bit. Yeah, the elbow position is too much in here. And then at this point, if you look at the so at this point, if you draw a vertical line from the right shoulder, your elbow is outside here. So this is not really a stuck elbow problem. You have an elbow leading the arm and the club too much.
Okay.
You're coming this way here. Instead of throw, then just keep it in front of your body here.
Okay.
So it's not stuck elbow. It's not stuck elbow, but actually your wrist is going in this way too much. And so here you need to use your wrist better. So the thing is that you have to use the whole body, okay? Not when you don't use the wrist that much like this. That means you don't have enough momentum transfer from the body to the club. Mm-hmm. So let's go to the angular momentum here. So this is the red line is the whole system angular momentum. Green is the angular momentum of the body, and then blue is the angular momentum of the club. Okay. Then you reach maximum angular momentum here, and then you are losing the angular momentum here, but the club does not gain much angular momentum here. So at impact, your body angular momentum and your club angular momentum are quite similar to each other. But if you look at Grant Waite's case, the club has almost twice as much angular momentum as the body. But in your case, you have a similar angular momentum at impact. Yeah. That means that you're not giving enough angular momentum to the club.
Okay.
So that means you're not using the wrist enough. So if you use the wrist too much, then it's a problem. Without using the body, if you use the wrist too much, then you definitely have wrist issues. But in this case, considering your body size and everything, but you are not utilizing your wrist enough.
Okay.
So the club is not gaining enough angular momentum. And one thing I noticed that your driver is a bit light,
Okay.
considering the typical numbers. So your iron and the pitching weight was okay. It was, but so your swing weight
Total
is
weight or swing weight?
your swing weight is a high side, but your actual club mass is a bit lower than typical.
Okay.
I think your swing weight was still like a D45 for the driver, but the driver mass was a bit lower,
Okay.
a bit lighter. And but the bottom line is at impact
So
here.
does the shaft need to be heavier?
Overall, you need to redo the club and then check all the numbers.
Okay.
So I generally look at the numbers when I type in the numbers, but my impression was, oh, the club is a bit light, but the swing weight is not. That means you do have sort of a light shaft, but still. But if you use a heavier shaft, then still it will also increase the swing weight. So because unless the center mass of the shaft is located on the left side of that 14-inch point, as long as the center mass of the shaft is still staying on the right side, then as you increase the shaft mass, then the overall swing weight also increases.
Okay.
So if you use a bit heavier shaft, then overall swing weight will also increase. That means you probably have a heavy club head, but really light shaft.
Okay.
So
What should the overall mass be?
that should for the driver, generally the number is about like 310 grams or something, but yours is I think a 280 something.
Okay.
Yeah, so your club mass is a bit lower, but your swing weight was still was 450 something. So, but yes, as you can see, your club does not have that much angular momentum here, and you need to use your wrist a lot more. Okay, with your body size, if you can use your wrist better. So currently with this, your club speed is slide over elite man's average here. But if you start using your wrist a bit better, then this will go more. Okay, so that's something you need to pay attention to. And that this is how you interact with the ground. And as I said, you tend to have an early upward motion in the backswing. And at the beginning, so your total force is slide over the body weight. Okay? And then as you start the backswing, you have so a lot of force acting on the trail side and then not much on the lead side. So this force distribution is good, but you don't have that much increase in that force here. So instead of because it's partial because your hip is going backward, but when you push the ground well with the trail leg, then the net force increases.
Okay.
But in this one, the net force does not change that much. Still, it's close to the body weight, but these two show a large difference. Then, so you are more distributing the forces, so have more force on the trail side and then less in the leader side, but you don't have net push. So you need to have a good push here. So this really speeds up the backswing motion.
Okay.
Because when you have, in order to have a faster body turn here, so instead of quick upper body turn here, when you have an active body turn here, then you have to push the ground so that your net force should be higher than the body weight. With that, you have a real fast motion here.
Okay.
But when you use the upper body only and start the faster backswing initially here, it's not coming from the lower body. And then once you do this, then after that, you have a slow motion here. But when you have a leg-driven backswing, it goes all the way here.
Okay.
You can build the climax or toward the end of the backswing.
Okay.
So because you don't have much push, then as you can see, you don't have much unweighting up to this point here. This is end of pelvis rotation. Okay, this is when the center of mass is at the high point here. So up to this point, you have upward motion of the center of mass. So you have initial upward acceleration and upward deceleration here. But because you don't have active push here, you don't have much unweighting here. So then this upward motion is completed. Then you're starting the downward motion by intentionally dropping the center of mass quite a bit here. So you have a major unweighting here and then pushing hard here. So you do have a lot of downward motion and upward motion, but we have the disconnect right here. So the unweighting during the upward deceleration and the unweighting during the downward acceleration, these are not connected that well here. So you have disconnect is because you have early action of upper body driven early action, and after that you have slow motion here. So in this, you don't have to unweight that much. So when this force goes up, then you have more unweighting here. But more importantly, you have to connect this unweighting and this unweighting, so make a continuous unweighting here. So you do have a lot of unweighting. This is happening during the downward motion. So that means you have intentional dropping of the body. Instead of nice connected downward motion, you just over here and then intentionally try to drop the body quite a bit and then try to kick. So you do have a large maximum force here. Okay, the timing is also reasonable, and then you have a large force. This exceeds Elitman's average.
When you say disconnected, you mean upper and lower body?
It's a backswing to downswing.
Okay.
So when you have so imagine when you move something from here to here and then coming back here, and in doing that, if you just go and then stop and then start all over again, then you have this kind of pattern here. The only thing is that in this motion, initially you go slowly here and then stop and then try to quickly come here.
Yeah.
Then you have this kind of pattern.
Okay.
But when you have a quick motion here and also quick motion here, still is a disconnect here. Then this unweighting goes more, but then it comes back to zero and then starting again. But because of the faster motion here, the unweighting will increase. Now, if this motion is connected here, then this unweighting and this unweighting will be continuous. So it doesn't go back and then start all over again, but these two are combined here. So you're a continuous unweighting. Then you don't even have to have this much unweighting in terms of magnitude. When you have continuous unweighting, then the area becomes a lot bigger, so you don't have to drop this much here.
Would any of this show why 3 or 4 years ago, I hurt my lower right back? Does this any of this show why?
This is you have a slow, but then you suddenly try to drop and then try to push hard. That means that you have abrupt transition.
Okay.
So when you move when you look at the body, initially quick shoulder turn here, upper body turn, and then you have a slow motion here, and then try to drop center mass and then try to key here. But you are letting the club go away from your body early. And rather, if you have a rhythmic motion, again, stepping like a rhythmic motion, what happens is overall the backswing gets faster. And then with that, this peak increases, and then you have more unweighting during the upward motion that is connected to the downward motion here, and then it will naturally give a good push here. But this one, you are intentionally dropping and then pushing here.
Okay.
So we definitely see change in the force right here near the.
What should that graph look like in the red?
It should continuously go down here.
Okay, not abrupt. All right.
So again, we'll see a Grant-Wade's pattern again after this. So and then with that, at the top of action here, the two forces are close to each other. So that means your center pressure is already at the center of the stance. When you have similar forces acting both sides, then the center pressure will stay in the middle here. So it's already here, rather than still on this side and then showing more inclination. It's just moving toward the center here. And then this force arrow is still fairly upright.
Yeah.
Because you don't have a much horizontal component here. But the thing is, if you have fast backswing and then continuous motion, then you're changing the direction actively here. But you turn here and then slowly going this way here.
Okay.
In this process, you're not pushing the ground that hard in the horizontal direction.
That's why my mowing arm's a little low.
So then the net force does not have much horizontal component here.
Yeah.
Then this stays more upright. Then this moment time is not reaching this level here.
Yeah.
You have a lot of unweighting here. Usually when you have a maximum unweighting like this, then this has to be a lot longer than that. Yeah. But because the force is more upright, center pressure is staying here. Because center pressure is close to the middle, and that's why you still have this much momentum here. But at this point, this still stays on this side, and then if it shows more inclination, then you will end up with a longer momentum here. Yeah. And then this momentum and then this peak unweighting gives this much torque here. So this level, at the beginning of the downswing, this torque is not that large here because it's about 1/2 of elite man's average maximum. But if you can generate a lot more torque at the beginning of the downswing, then you can start the early acceleration of the body. But here, then you have to increase this rapidly by using this force here. Your peak torque is here. But if you look at the shape, it's like going up and quickly coming down instead of staying there. Okay, so it has this protrusion here and then coming down quickly to this point here. So what matters is from the top of backswing to EDA here, the area under the curve, this is what's important. This is the angular impulse. But because you have a quick, peak here and then coming down here, the area is not that large. Okay. On the average, it's way below this line here. And you have a lot of push here, so this is close to 2 times the body weight. But this is too much. You don't have to push this much here.
Okay.
So as long as you push like a 1.8 to 1.85 times body weight, then it's a good push actually. Okay. But you're pushing almost close to 2 times your body weight, but this is too much. At this point, your torque is already down here. Okay. Your momentum is decreased quite a bit here. Again, because this momentum is not that long here. And then at impact here, the force arrow is going passing left side of the center mass, so the torque is actually in the opposite direction. So while the rotation is going this way here, the torque you generate using the ground is actually acting in the opposite direction. It's negative here. It can go go down to 0, but there's no reason to have this negative torque acting in the opposite direction. This is because the force is passing the left side of the center mass here. So this arrow should still go through the center of mass or stay close to the center of mass rather than going back here. And then, so what you need to do is still at the top of backswing, you have to maintain more force on this side here. Okay? Instead of having similar force here. This happens because, again, you have early quick action, quick turn here, and as you bring this up, your whole body is going slowly this way here, and with this, the legs are sharing similar weight here. So that's why the center pressure goes to the center here. Mm-hmm. But because you don't have much horizontal force, so the force is more upright. But rather still, if you have more faster motion and then continuous transition, then essentially it looks like this here. It has to come from the legs. Okay. Particularly during the backswing, you have to use the trail leg.
Trail leg.
Yeah. Key, and then push the ground also lateral here. With that, push this way and then quick throw. Then you can have a lot more force on this, because by using this leg, you're pushing the ground that way, then the ground direction force is this way here, right? So that force will push the body this way actively. Then eventually, when you try to stop this motion, you have to push the ground actively here. Yeah. With that, you have a lot more force on the lead foot. Okay. So, again, we need to work on this aspect here. So at the beginning, instead of introducing early rotation, but try to use the legs more actively. Okay. With that, have a faster motion naturally. So that's generally what we see consistently here. This one shows early, cleavage speed peak.
So rotational torque in the backswing is too high, and I need more horizontal.
The torque is not too high in the backswing. The torque is not that large. Okay. But the thing is, what you're doing is you're initiating the backswing motion with the early, just the upper body turn here. Okay. And it's not supported by the leg action here. Okay. You're only distributing the force more to this side. So in this one, you're sort of just stepping onto this side here. But it's not coming from active push.
I gotcha. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so everything basically points that. So you have early action, however, but the net force is not large. That means you don't have a net active push here. You're just distributing the force here. And then because you don't have active push here, then you don't have much unweighting here. But the thing is, when you don't have active push here, then you're not turning the body actively with the legs. That means eventually, after this early quick action, eventually the rotation goes slowly. So you have a long phase of a slow motion here. Then that causes trouble in terms of the connection between the backswing to downswing here. So you don't have much unweighting at this phase. This is endopelvis rotation. So you have a two-stage motion here. So you have slow motion here, and then from here you try to drop the body and then try to push hard here. But in that process, if you have a good turn here by using the momentum here, throw, and then all the body parts will show a coiling here. Coiling, and from here we can throw hard here. But you just a quick turn here, and then as you lift this, your body is just shifting this way. That's why my arms work too. And then try to drop the body and then try to kick. In that process, the club goes away from your body. Okay. Yeah. So use active backswing, and then with that, you have to connect the backswing to a downswing, and then that stepping drills will be really good. Okay. The two-step swing drill, 1, 2, 3. So in the afternoon, let's practice that. Okay. And you will have a lot better transition there. Okay. So with your body size, you're at over 190 centimeters. You have that advantage of body size. If you can, eventually, if you can use your wrist well, then you can add a lot of speed.
Long drive.
Yeah, but then this wrist motion is not coming from intentional wrist effort here, but rather by using the momentum here.
Yeah.
Throw the club and let the club go, and then because you have a rhythmic transition here, automatically club comes behind here, and then later you can throw.
Okay.
Have this action of throwing here. So, you see, the main thing is the rhythm here. So you need to speed up the action a bit more, so develop stepping like action. So let's practice the step drill quite a bit in the afternoon.
Okay.
Any questions?
No.
And before we close, let's briefly take a look at the grant weights. Okay. And in order to have active trail leg action, then you have to start the backswing with more force acting on the leader side here. So at the beginning here, you need to have more force acting on the leader side. So we see difference here. And from there, these will cross, go push here.
Okay.
So let's go to first the club speed. You see, the club speed reaches peak value about here. So when the club is about here. But this is also the point where you typically start the shift motion toward the target. So you have away motion, and then you start the toward motion. This is around here. There you have a peak club speed. Then from here to here, the club head speed decreases rapidly. That means you have active deceleration, faster deceleration, and then going to the opposite direction, and then it goes again here. So he's building the climax right here.
Okay.
And for that, and then these planes are fairly well aligned to each other. And then this is along the swing plane. You can see that his club head is going above the swing plane early on. And then...
Is that due to, like, me feeling low? Is that a ground reaction thing?
When you push the ground and have well supported the body here, then it will go more steeper path, along the steeper path instead of going flat.
Okay.
Because you tend to move the hip backward. So with that, you have to introduce initial spinning motion.
Okay.
Then club head naturally goes a bit flatter here.
Okay.
So in his case, it's supporting the club well, so it's moving initially along the swing plane and goes above. Because it stays on the swing plane here, then you don't have to lift this quite high here. Just have good looping motion. Then at the beginning of the downswing, the club head goes quickly toward the swing plane here. So clean planar motion here. And the center of mass initially moves more horizontally and then goes up and then down and up here. And this also continues this motion instead of go flat and then try to drop it later. The pelvis, particularly this one here, goes forward, backward, forward here. And this is away motion, and then it's pretty much coming back to the initial position. This is really the recentering phase here. And then it continuously moves toward the target here. So he shows really clean pelvis motion here. X factor is a continuous increase here. And the kinematic sequence. So his pelvis peak is about here, thorax here, and the shoulder here. So these are happening pretty much in the middle of the backswing here. So then the arms and the club, these are delayed here. So the club reaches peak angular velocity about here. So this is when the club becomes vertically aligned here. So about here, the angular velocity becomes a peak maximum. And then, so since the body reaches peak angular velocity a bit later, so from here to here, you can almost have a symmetric deceleration here. So you don't have to have a long phase of hesitation. Then the transition becomes a lot simpler. And it's a well-spaced sequential transition. And then the downswing peak here. If you look at the wrist motion here, wrist cocking angular velocity further increases here in the downswing and then uncocking starts from here. It's a well delayed release here. Which the angular velocity exceeds man's average, the club angular velocity exceeds man's average. So he's using his wrist quite well here. And then this is the interaction with the ground. Again, he's starting the backswing with the more force acting on the leader foot. So in order to have active motion, you have to use the leader leg and push the ground that way. With that, you start this body motion. Without this, when you start the backswing, what happens is a spinning motion.
Okay.
So the right hip has to go backward.
How do you train that? The lead leg push.
Just to introduce a slight body motion here.
Okay.
So instead of actually having the pelvis closed a little bit while your shoulders are open here, instead of this position,
Okay.
so no matter what, you should be able to activate your trail leg at the beginning. Then when you use the trail leg well here, then the body motion becomes a lot more active here.
Okay.
So using that push, you're promoting this turn instead of spinning motion here. So then you see a clear peak here in terms of net force here. This goes way above the body weight. And after that, up to this point, this is upward motion. So here we have this unrating during the upward motion. So this is the upward deceleration, okay? And then downward acceleration. These are connected here. So it's a continuous. And then maximum unrating here. When he has maximum unrating, the moment time is longer than elite man's average maximum. Torque is already at this point here. So from the beginning of the downswing to EDA, here you see his torque stays here. So when you look at the average torque generated here, the average torque is the same to elite man's average maximum. So he's using the ground really well. And then his push is not as hard as yours. He's about around 1.85 times your body weight, but yours is approaching to almost 2 times your body weight. And then, so still at the top of action here, you see the force difference here. So the center of pressure is still staying close to the trapeze, and he has really a good inclination of the force arrow because he's pushing the ground in horizontal direction. So you need to awaken your trail leg. The trail leg is really important. So he's fairly maintains a centered pivot here. Okay, and then the shoulder the thorax may show a slightly reverse pivot alignment, but so you don't have to move the body away too much. Still, you can maintain pretty much a centered pivot here. So slightly going away initially, going away, and then here centered pivot here, and then on the way down, you see when the club is horizontal, his hands are pretty much in front of the thigh here. And then the right arm just shows pretty much this alignment here, not this way. So in your case, this is behind here, so it looks like the elbow is leading the hand and the club. But it's pretty much aligned here because it's in front of the thigh here.
Yeah.
And then let it go. So then, if you look at his angular momentum here, so look at this here. So his body is losing a lot of angular momentum. The club gains angular momentum. So at impact, this is the body angular momentum. This is the club angular momentum. Big difference. Club has a lot more angular momentum because he's using the wrist quite well here. So this is coming from more dynamic and the rhythmic motion.